Godzilla vs. Kong is directed by Adam Wingard and is the fourth entry to the MonsterVerse franchise, which includes Godzilla 2014, Kong Skull Island, which came out in 2017, and Godzilla King of the Monsters from 2019. I went to theaters and saw this movie with my dad and my brother last night, and we all had an absolute blast. This is a very, very fun movie. I was definitely entertained. And to be honest, Godzilla vs. Kong is the direct definition of entertainment.
I know Gia is only a child, but she's the only one Kong will communicate with. We need to help him find a new home.
If he leaves, Godzilla will come for him.
Godzilla had left us in peace. You provoked him into war.
They had an ancient rivalry. There can't be two Alpha Titans.
Now, I was originally wanting to review this movie last night while it was fresh on my mind, but I felt like that I needed a good night to sleep on it, and here I am the next morning, and my opinion really hasn't changed. This movie was flipping great. I had a blast, my brother had a blast, and even my dad had a blast, who doesn't really normally enjoy these MonsterVerse movies. Now, as with any movie, this movie isn't perfect. It definitely has some flaws, but in all honesty, I just really don't feel like criticizing it, and I'm a very, very critical person. But I just don't really feel like criticizing this movie. It kind of opened up my eyes to something like, I just don't really see any point in criticizing this movie. This is just a fun movie that I think everybody should have the opportunity to enjoy. And I don't really get why some people just really feel the need to ruin that. And I've seen a lot of people, specifically on the HBO Instagram posts, just commenting that the movie is garbage, or it's terrible, or it's predictable. And, sorry if I offend anyone, and I don't really mean it to come across this way, but, this movie is not garbage, and if you think it is, then maybe you're not a fan, you're not really a fan of Godzilla, or you're just a flat-out an idiot, because this movie is not garbage. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect by any means, but it's definitely not garbage. This movie is great. The monster fights are great. Even some of the most of the CGI, almost all the CGI is just, it's outstanding. The CGI is just great, and we've definitely reached a new level when it comes to technology. I really think that this film should win an Oscar for CGI. There weren't really any parts really to complain about the CGI. The CGI didn't look bad. It looks great. It's Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, Smaug animation, perfect. You see, with new movies lately, specifically with some of the Marvel ones, the CGI really isn't all that great, but when it comes to this movie, the CGI is pretty great. It's probably some of the best CGI I've seen in quite some time. Now, I'm going to do my best to avoid spoilers because, in all honesty, I really think that you guys should go out and see it yourselves. And, by the way, while it's on my mind, I really think that if you're going to see this movie for the first time, don't watch it on HBO Max. Go out into the theaters, see it in 3D, because that is the best experience. Seeing this movie in 3D and in a theater is great. And, if you want to watch it on HBO, maybe afterwards, but at least see it in theaters once, because it's a whole different experience. So, anyways, back to some of my problems with the film. Obviously, I have to state them for a proper review. I felt like that the acting was a bit bland in a few scenes, and honestly, I think I can blame that on the dialogue. Some of the dialogue was kind of bad in a few scenes. It's only just for a few scenes. It doesn't really ruin the movie for me, but I definitely feel like that the dialogue could have been a lot better. Another thing is the human characters. Now, I went into this movie basically with very, very low expectations when it comes to the human characters, but I was definitely impressed. The human characters were definitely a lot better than I was initially thinking. And, they're not Jurassic Park level of human characters, but, they're definitely a lot better than perhaps maybe King of the Monsters, per se. But, they're not Jurassic Park level or anything, or even for that matter, Jurassic World. But I definitely think that the human characters could have been a lot more interesting, especially the Godzilla team. Basically, the film is there is the King Kong team, then there is the Godzilla team, and they're basically just trying to help them out. But I mean, the Kong team was great. I was more interested in the Kong team, but when it came to the Godzilla team, I mean, I just really didn't care about them. They actually got one of the girls from Stranger Things. I don't actually know the actress's name. Comment down below if you know what it is. But she was great in this movie. I thought she was, phenomenal. But when it came to the two other characters, they were just kind of meh. I didn't really care about them. Now, when it came to the Kong team, I actually found them quite interesting. Obviously, we have the there was like an Owen-like character from Jurassic World. There always is in these movies. Average tough guy with sweat and muscles. Didn't really care about him. There was also this, I assume, deaf girl who could actually communicate with Kong using sign language, which is actually scientifically possible with gorillas, by the way. But yeah, I thought she was great. Again, I don't remember their names, probably because the characters are a bit forgettable. But those are some of the characters that kind of stood out to me from the others. Now, I've also seen a few people criticizing that the scenes jump really fast from one place to another, and they're calling that really a flaw. And I have to disagree with that. I thought it was fine. I didn't really have any problem with the scenes jumping one place to like another and it being really fast. This is a very, very fast-paced film, but it actually felt a lot longer than like less than 2 hours. The movie's less than 2 hours. I believe it's only an hour and 55 minutes. But it felt a lot longer than that, which I suppose is good. But I didn't really see any problem with it jumping to one scene from the other, because I don't really want a really, really, boring scene like filler just to get to that next scene. Because that's kind of what Godzilla, King of the Monsters had, which a lot of people didn't like. I just want to get to the next scene. And that's what they did with this movie, because people have very, very short detention spans. I have a very, very short detention span. So those are just some of the flaws. There were a few dumb things, like there was this little spider robot thing that was like taking the energy out of Kong's axe, I believe. And yeah, it was giving me Scoob vibes. Yeah, I didn't really like that much. It was a little bit corny and cheesy. I mean, there were some corny scenes here and there. But overall, it doesn't really ruin the movie for me. I really think that this movie was supposed to be kind of corny in a few scenes, but it definitely wasn't bad as a few of the other movies. I definitely didn't like Kong Skull Island that much. Yeah, guys, I don't like Kong Skull Island. I like the monster fights, but I never liked that movie. But overall, this movie definitely improves from Kong Skull Island, which is, in my opinion, the worst monster-verse film. But now for some of my praises. One thing, though, I feel like I need to mention is Kong. Kong was absolutely great in this film. He was more of the main character. This wasn't really Godzilla's movie. This was more of Kong's movie. This was more of a Kong film, in my opinion. I mean, Godzilla was in it a lot, definitely more than the 2014 film, but this was more of Kong's movie, so a lot of people have been thinking that this is a Godzilla movie. This is more of a Kong movie, so definitely keep that in mind. Kong was great in this movie. I was kind of mixed on what side or what team I was actually on, and I was more leaning towards Godzilla, but after seeing this movie, I'm definitely Team Kong. Kong was absolutely great. The animation on him is just spectacular. I really, really enjoyed it. Godzilla was also great. In this film. Now, I'm not really that much of a Godzilla fan. I really went, to this movie to see Kong, even though I'm leaning more towards Godzilla, if that makes sense. But Godzilla was great in this movie too. But honestly, though, I really wanted to see Kong beat his backside, and we got that in the movie. But again, I'm not going to spoil who wins the battles or anything. But there's multiple battles in the film. Sometimes I guess Kong wins, sometimes Godzilla wins, but there's like a winner at the end, and I'm not going to spoil who wins or anything. You need to figure that out yourself. But yeah, one fight was definitely unfair since it was on water, but it just really depends. My dad actually criticized that Kong actually gave up too easily, but I kind of mentioned that Kong is getting pretty old. It's been since the 70s that they've seen him last. It's definitely been quite some time. I can see that Kong kind of gave up a little too easily, but honestly, what he was up against, I don't really blame him. There were, I guess a few dumb things like that all these movies have, such as like 1 in 1,000 chance and it happens 5 times in a row. Obviously, that's going to happen. But, this movie's just meant for entertainment. A lot of people forget that these are movies. And, again, I don't really get why people have to go and ruin it. This movie is just fun. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm trying to think of what else was good. Definitely the fights. The fights were the best part. It wasn't fighting through the whole thing. It definitely balanced the human characters with the Godzilla characters. I'm satisfied. I'm definitely not disappointed with this film. I know a few friends who said that they were a little bit disappointed. I don't really see how you can be. This is pretty much everything I wanted from this movie and more. The fights are great. Mechagodzilla is great. Yes, Mechagodzilla is in this. He's definitely my brother's favorite character. The CGI on Mechagodzilla was great. I was really worried that it was going to be, sort of cheesy. But no, Mechagodzilla was freaking great. And definitely the final fight scene was the best. I mean, there's scenes that, it's so epic that I basically just start laughing because it's so epic. And there's really, really intense scenes. Now, if you have, like, any children and you're wanting to take them to this movie, it really just depends on the kid. There is some cursing here and there, but it's not really bad. It's basically them just saying the D word or the S word over and over. It's nothing that bad. It's not Stranger Things bad. But, there is some mild language in the movie. There is definitely a good amount of violence. There's a part where a skullcrawler is just completely demolished by Mechagodzilla, and it was pretty gross. It basically got burned alive, I guess. It basically turned to goo and just black goo, I guess. It was burned that much by a laser. There is definitely some violent scenes. It definitely, if you're going to take them to the theaters, it's definitely scary. The movie is definitely going to be scary to, a 4-year-old. It just, overall, it really, really just depends on the kid. But, this movie, I just had a blast with it. I really hope that you will have a blast with it. I had fun with it. Just know that younger kids may be a little, they may find this movie a little bit scary, and I definitely can see why. But Godzilla vs. Kong was definitely not a disappointment. I had a great time with it, and I really hope that you guys will too. So I'm going to have to give Godzilla vs. Kong an A. Guys, I really, really enjoyed this film. I definitely had a blast with it. If you didn't like the movie, I can definitely, I guess I can understand. But just don't go around criticizing it or calling it garbage, because it's really not. If you don't really have anything nice to say, don't really say anything at all. You either like it or you don't. I like this movie. It appears thousands of other people are liking this movie. I really hope that it makes a bunch of money. I hope it'll be, the next Endgame or maybe the next Avatar, which it's already made $168 million in just a few days, which is really good. But, guys, those are pretty much my thoughts on Godzilla vs. Kong.